You know who's playing? Those Giants and the Washington football team. Now, as we set the lines and we're saying, what's going to take place in this one, Kyle? This morning, we had soft 3.5s, like -3.5 plus 100. We now have -3.5 with about -115. So the money pouring in, and even, Kyle, some lines as high as 4, depending where you're shopping at tonight. And I, as I like to say, agree with that line movement.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I still think it takes this game makes me nervous, right? So you've got some trends. I'm not like the biggest trend guy, but Daniel Jones has never won a game in prime time. They're on the road on a short week, Thursday Night Football. They've got injuries on the offensive line. Who knows what we're going to get out of Saquon Barkley if he even plays? And then you got Washington, obviously, going with their backup quarterback, Taylor Heineke, after the injury to Ryan Fitzpatrick. So I think this game's really tough. I'm going with the home team here. I do like Washington. It's starting to get a little scary, right? Like there's certainly a universe where these are two solid defenses, not great offenses. There's certainly a world where this is a close, 17-14, 20-17 type of game. You're not really getting a break with the total, right? That opened at 43.5. Now it's all the way down to 40.5. So you need a low-scoring game if you're going to take that total. I think this game's really, really tough to cap. I think it's a tough one to bet on with a ton of confidence. I do, right now, as we sit, I need Washington to win because of my bet with Jason Radowitz, obviously. But I'm leaning Washington here. I do think they get it done. I just think that defense is too tough, and you can always count on Daniel Jones to commit that dumb turnover that costs his team some points. But it's tough, and I don't blame people for passing on this one. There's a few props I like. It's going to be a tough, slow game. It's week 2. Expect good defense. I'm leaning Washington and leaning the under, but it makes me nervous.
No, it does make you nervous because it is a divisional game. You don't have Ryan Fitzpatrick going with Heineke, who threw for over 300 yards in his playoff game last year against the Tampa Bay Bucks. He's got some wheels. He's athletic. He'll be able to move the pocket. I think Washington will be just fine. The crux of the argument comes down to, Kyle, where it's a very simple handicap for me, right? How much are we going to get out of Saquon Barkley tonight? I don't know. Not much. We've got 10 carries, 26 yards opening day. Now, you're going to play a game from Sunday, 4 days later on Thursday, worried about his knee. And also keep in mind, we're going to talk prop bets in a little bit. He was 49.5 last night as his rushing prop. He's now sitting at 39.5. So it's dropping, which usually leads you to believe somebody knows something about Saquon Barkley tonight, because that's not Kyle dropping from 125 to 120. Ooh, somebody's getting a sharp price. That is a massive drop without not a lot of yards already dealing with from 49 down to 39. But you look at the offensive line here for the New York Giants. I don't like it. You know what I do like? The Washington football team defensive line in front 7. They will get organic pressure on Daniel Jones. Also, we'll take a look at some props in a little bit, which may lead to some scramble plays by these two quarterbacks. But, Kyle, if I'm looking just at the game, win it in the trenches are better on Washington's side than they are the New York Giants. Also, a road game on a Thursday night, always tough in the NFL. But we can't just say I got 3 early in the week at -120, which some people probably did get. It's 3.5 today. I still trust that the Washington football team is the better team tonight, somewhere in that range, 23-17, 24-20. I think they can cover that 3.5 tonight. But if there is the ability before game time to maybe get that 3 at some juice, I do recommend doing that, since it is a low-scoring game, Kyle. We're not talking about 60 as a total, like, they're going to score up and down the field. Points might be at a premium tonight, but to me, Kyle, Washington football team for me or nothing.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. And this might be a spot. Look, it's weird. You don't typically take, 3.5s and 4s and say you need to tease them down, but this is a perfect teaser spot. I like Washington as well. You're 100% right. They are exponentially better in the trenches. That Giants offensive line was already struggling. Now they're going to be without one of their top guards tonight. It just doesn't, I feel like Daniel Jones is going to be running for his life. Washington knows you cannot start the season, a team with NFC West divisional hopes, NFC East divisional hopes. You can't start the season 0-2 at home. You just simply can't do it, especially your second loss coming to a division rival on a short week. I expect Daniel Jones to turn it over. I don't mind that prop. Anytime turnover for Daniel Jones. He does it nearly every single game. I just don't know. Daniel Jones is going to have to drop back and hit those talented receivers who didn't look bad. Look, Shepard looked good. Kenny Golladay looked good. Even Slayton had a few balls. Again, they'll be without Evan Ingram again tonight, so it's going to be Kyle Rudolph at tight end, so you lose a lot of big play upside there with Kyle Rudolph. And look, I agree with that line movement on Saquon Barkley. I don't expect much. And Look, I saw Pro Football Focus trying to, pump him up, saying start him in fantasy football. I wouldn't start him if my life depended on it. I have literally zero exposure to him in DFS. So this might be good news for you Saquon Barkley owners, because generally when I bash a player like this, they tend to go off. But I don't think we're going to see much out of Saquon. That running game is going to really struggle. Daniel Jones is going to have to throw you to victory here, and that's never a recipe for success on the road in a short week. I'm with you. I like Washington here, and I don't blame people for having to tease this down and get it at 2.5 or 3 and pay the juice. I think it's a smart move.
Tease what? To what to 2.5?
Tease Washington minus 2.5 over instead of the 3.5 or the 4. Just tease it down a point or two.
Wait, hold on. So Washington's favored by 3. Let's just say you would tease Washington to +3.
No, I would just get that half a point. Just I think if Washington wins,
by the point you mean? I
thought
just would be 6-point swing.
Right. You get what I mean. Buy the point, tease the point.
Yeah,
however, whatever.
Guard there for a second. Like,
My bad here. I'm reading the chat box too, realizing my pitcher got scratched in the Astros game. So just the whole universe is up in smoke today. But look, there's certainly a world where this is a close slugfest 3-point game. So I don't mind people buying the points there, getting it to 2.5. I know you got to pay the juice for it. But I feel a whole lot safer about 2.5 than I do 3.5, because it's just hard. It's also hard to say, okay, Washington backup quarterback, are they going to win by a touchdown? And that's basically what you're looking for when you start taking these 3.5s and 4s. So it's a little nerve wracking. I still like Washington, but I'm a whole lot nervous now that these half points and full points are being added to it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. Also, Cassius in the chat box. Donnie, what do you think about Shepard over 72 yards? Well, I hope he gets over 72, but here on the FanDuel Sportsbook, he only needs 57.5 yards to cover his number. And also, this morning, it was lower than that because I had them all listed here. It was 54.5, so that number is on the move as well. So I think we can agree Washington football team is probably going to win this game, or at least I think they're going to win. Also, if you take a look at on Caesars, there is a bet, the Super Boost, only $25, but you get them at just to win the game at +100. So not a bad option. No points, +100 to win the game. I think that is certainly a decent look here. But let's go over some prop bets in the game that we think are advantageous here. I got a couple I'm looking at. Daniel Jones over 20.5 rushing yards, which was this morning on the FanDuel Sportsbook. I think he is going to be able to scramble, get out of the pocket. Why? Because when you get pressure, you're not standing back there for 7 seconds looking for a receiver. Like, oh my goodness, let me get out of here and make some plays with my feet. I think Daniel Jones can get over that rushing prop. Also, Sterling Shepard, as we just talked about in the chat box, over 54.5 was the number this morning. I think he's the best of the wide receivers for the Giants. Why? Because I think he's the steadiest. I'm not going to be surprised, or I would be surprised if it's one catch for 13 yards for him. He's going to be open. Daniel Jones should be able to target him just like he did in week 1. And also, rushing and receiving combined prop. J.D. McKissick over 30.5 yards. If I think Antonio Gibson is a little bit banged up, maybe McKissick gets a little bit more play in this football game. So that's where I'm going to go with my prop bets. I do like the Washington football team in the game, and I do lean towards the under here as well, Kyle. Any props that have your attention here?
Yeah, there's 3 of them for me. And again, I don't think it's a real high-scoring game, so it's hard to start jumping all over receiving props and over props because I'm just not sure that there's going to be a lot of points. But I agree with you. Daniel Jones, I took him over 23.5 at -130. Look, he hit that number last week at 27. We don't know what we're going to get out of Barkley. You're not going to have a lot of success running on this Washington front 7 with that offensive line. He's going to be throwing the ball more than probably Joe Judge wants him to be throwing. And with that pass rush, he's going to be running for his life a little bit. I expect him to scramble out and hit that 23.5 yards. And in that same vein, I'm going to take the under 39.5 for Saquon Barkley. I just don't think he does much of anything tonight. It's so low for a guy like Barkley. But there's so many question marks if he even plays the game tonight. And he's talked all week about how concerned he is about his knee and the schedule. Not a good look for Saquon. I don't think he does much tonight. You probably see more Devontae Booker than you would hope if you're a Giants fan. I'm going to take that under 39.5 yards. I don't typically take under rushing yards. I did it last week with Zeke Elliott against Tampa Bay. Paid off beautifully. See a similar type of situation tonight. The Giants are going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. And then one more prop on the Washington side. So the Giants have 2 outstanding perimeter corners in Adoree Jackson and James Bradbury. But in the slot, they have Darnay Holmes. Darnay Holmes was targeted and gave up a reception on 33% of his defensive routes played last week in the slot. Adam Humphries played about 65% of the snaps last week. He played 42% of them in the slot. I think he gets over 2.5 catches tonight, gets to 3. He only had 2 in week 1 against a better Charger slot corner anyways, and he's going to face tonight. They're going to be forced to get the ball over the middle of the field. I think Adam Humphries gets the 3 catches tonight at -130.